I always thought the best part about retirement would be peace. No alarms. No traffic. No deadlines. Just me, my small house on Willow Creek Lane, and the quiet rhythm of the lake at the end of the cul-de-sac. But I learned something about quiet. It can be deceiving. Sometimes, it's not peace. It's surveillance. I moved to this neighborhood 3 years ago. The homes were new, modern, and painfully symmetrical, all under the watchful eyes of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association. I wasn't much for socializing. I kept my lawn neat, paid my dues on time, and minded my own business. That, apparently, made me suspicious. My next-door neighbor, Patricia Hall, was everything the HOA worshipped. Perfect hedges, matching shutters, and a dog that wore bow ties for holidays. She ran the HOA's social committee, though it felt more like a secret police force. Patricia didn't ask how you were, she inspected you. At first, I ignored her small talk and fake smiles. But I noticed how often her eyes darted toward my backyard. My property bordered a thin stretch of woods that opened onto the lake. I'd built a small shed there, nothing extravagant, just a space to store my tools and an old kayak. But Patricia hated it. It ruins the uniformity, she'd say with that saccharine voice, masking her irritation. Then came the letters. Violation, unauthorized structure. Violation, unapproved fencing. Every week, another fine, another warning. I knew the HOA bylaws like scripture, and I wasn't breaking a single one. Still, the harassment continued. One evening, I walked out to find a man standing by my mailbox, camera in hand. He wore a reflective vest with HOA compliance written across it, something I'd never seen before. When I approached, he quickly turned his camera away and said, "Routine inspection, sir." Routine inspection? At 7:30 p.m.? The next morning, Patricia waved from her driveway, smiling wider than usual. That was the moment it clicked. She'd hired someone. A spy. Over the next week, I noticed more. My trash cans were moved slightly each morning, like someone had been peering inside. A new black SUV idled down the street at odd hours. My doorbell camera caught a man kneeling near my fence, measuring distances with a tape. I reported it to the HOA, but the president, a smug man named Ron Weaver, brushed it off. "We don't conduct private investigations, Mr. Bennett," he said. "If someone's observing your property, it's likely for safety reasons." Safety reasons. Right. That's when I started keeping a journal. Every sighting, every conversation, every timestamp. I wasn't just being paranoid, I was being documented, watched, and targeted. And if Patricia thought she could use her HOA power to intimidate me, she'd soon learn that I wasn't the kind of man who folded under pressure. She wanted to play games with rules? I'd bury her in them. It started subtle, a rustle in the bushes, a faint click of a camera lens, the sensation of eyes tracing the back of my neck whenever I stepped outside. I wasn't imagining it. Patricia's inspector had made me his full-time project. One evening, I caught him. I had set up an old trail cam, a leftover from my days as a wildlife photographer, hidden in a birdhouse near my shed. When I checked the footage the next morning, my blood went cold. The man was there, crouched near my foundation, snapping photos of the shed's base. He was lifting a small panel, as if searching for something beneath it. The timestamp read 2:14 a.m. That was no inspection. That was trespassing. I went straight to the HOA office. Ron Weaver met me with his usual smirk, that practiced political smile that said I'm untouchable. Asterisk. "I have video proof," I said, setting my tablet on the counter. "Your so-called compliance officer is entering my property at night." Ron barely glanced at the screen. "Mr. Bennett, as I said before, the HOA doesn't hire private contractors for after-hours inspections. If someone's trespassing, that's a police matter." I leaned in. "Then why did Patricia's SUV show up 5 minutes after he left?" For a moment, that mask of calm slipped. Just for a second. Then he recovered. "I'll remind you, accusations against board members are a serious matter. Perhaps you should consider mediation before you." I didn't let him finish. Consider this my notice. You and your board are being watched now." I walked out, but inside, I was already crafting a plan. For the next 2 weeks, I collected evidence. Every night, the spy came back, sometimes alone, sometimes with Patricia watching from her porch, pretending to walk her dog. I had footage, timestamps, even a copy of the false violation notices slipped into my mailbox, each with handwriting I later matched to Patricia's. But I wanted more than just evidence. I wanted humiliation. I learned that Patricia was up for re-election as the HOA's vice president. Her reputation was spotless, dedicated, transparent, morally upright. That facade was her entire identity. If I could expose her deceit before the election, she wouldn't just lose her seat. She'd lose her power. So I baited them. I filed a formal request with a county inspector to review all HOA-approved property modifications, a move that would force Patricia's hand. I knew she'd panic, afraid that the shed she tried so hard to have condemned would now appear legitimate. Sure enough, 2 days later, I caught her spy sneaking around again, this time digging near the shed. He was trying to plant something. I waited until he was halfway done before stepping out, flashlight in hand. "Lose something," I said. He froze like a deer in headlights. I was just... "Saving yourself some explaining in court might be a good start," I interrupted. He bolted, but not before dropping a small envelope. Inside were photographs of my backyard, close-ups of my windows, even one of me sitting on the porch, labeled with times and notes like possible code violation. I didn't call the police. Not yet. No, I had something better in mind, something that would end Patricia's little reign permanently. I wanted her to feel what I'd felt, cornered, observed, powerless. So I built a trap. Using a friend's contact in the county records office, I drafted an anonymous report claiming Patricia's own home had unpermitted modifications, her deck, her backyard lighting, even her new patio extension. All technically true, all previously overlooked thanks to her position. Within days, the county inspector arrived. Patricia was livid, cornered in her driveway as officials took photos of her property. I watched from my porch, sipping coffee, while she shouted at them, insisting it was all a misunderstanding. And just when she thought it couldn't get worse, I mailed copies of the spy's photos, time logs, and footage to the entire HOA board. Every member received proof that Patricia had hired someone to stalk a neighbor, falsify violations, and trespass on private property. The board called an emergency meeting that evening. I wasn't invited, but I didn't need to be. The next morning, Patricia's for sale sign went up. But that wasn't the end. Because a week later, the spy came back one last time, not to snoop, but to warn me. "She's not done," he said, his voice low, nervous. "You embarrassed her. She wants payback." I smiled. Then I hope she comes prepared. Because the next move, the final move, would end it for good. Patricia didn't waste time. When she came for me, she came carefully, like a cat circling a bird it planned to toy with first. Her first move was a formal complaint to the county claiming I had obstructed an easement by placing rocks along the back path to the lake. The complaint was thin, mostly hearsay and a doctored photo showing my shed closer to the path than it actually was. I received the notice on a Thursday afternoon, the paper crisp and official in my mailbox. She'd used whatever thin resources she had left to try to intimidate me into silence, or into moving. But she forgot something essential. Every move she made left a mark. Every forged photo, every hired foot, every false note, it built a pattern. I had already fed the right people the first pieces. I met her in the middle of the cul-de-sac that same evening. "This won't go well for you if it reaches the county," she said, hands folded like a prayer. "You're wasting your breath," I said. "If you want to make me a villain, you'll have to do better." That night, I called my friend Maya, a local attorney. She told me plainly, "You've done well to collect evidence, but you need to be surgical. Don't let emotion ruin the case." Surgical. I liked that word. Patricia escalated, posting accusations about me on the neighborhood forum. It worked. Half the neighbors started gossiping, half stayed silent. I requested to speak at the next HOA emergency meeting. The night of the meeting, The community room smelled of cheap coffee and control. Patricia arrived smiling like she still believed she could win. When my turn came, I started slow. "I moved here for peace," I said. Then I unveiled everything: photos, time logs, trail cam footage, and the payment receipts from Patricia to the SUV owner. I even played an audio recording of her instructing the man to keep an eye on Bennett's shed. Silence. Patricia's face strained. Ron Weaver looked at her like she'd just detonated the board's reputation. They called a private session, and when they returned, they had no choice but to suspend her. But she wasn't done. Cornered people rarely are. She filed a defamation suit against me, hoping to drain me in court. But Maya and I countered with subpoenas, bank records, witness statements, phone logs. The spy folded under questioning and confessed to being hired by Patricia. That broke her. The judge dismissed her case and admonished her for harassment. The HOA, in turn, voted to remove her permanently and fine her for misconduct. Ron resigned a week later, and a new committee began drafting transparent bylaws. The neighborhood shifted. Power had changed hands. Patricia's house went up for sale. Her once adoring followers vanished. The dog, the decorations, the control, all gone. And finally, quiet returned. It wasn't the same quiet I'd once known, not naive or fragile. It was earned. It was guarded by truth. Sometimes, late at night, I sit on my dock, watching the water shimmer under the moon, and I think about how easily decency can rot when power goes unchecked. Patricia thought she could manipulate me with rules. But I had something she didn't: patience, evidence, and time. Justice doesn't always come loudly. Sometimes it comes with a camera in a birdhouse, a file folder full of dates, and a man who refuses to be bullied. And when it does, it doesn't just silence the noise. It teaches the entire neighborhood what happens when the watchers get watched.